Hello, howdy, hey, hi there, I'm Bodhi, welcome back to another video. This video actually took a lot longer than expected, so I lost track of how I actually thought of the idea. I just have to assume I was digging around on my couch and just went, Persona 5 is a fun game that has some awesome characters, plot, and designs. What's something similar? Miraculous? Man, I kind of hate that I just compared those two. That show kind of sucks, but I do love it just about as much. What if the Persona characters were in the Miraculous universe? So, starting us out, I gave the Persona 5 Royals characters a Miraculous. I was hoping to do both, swap it vice versa and do both in the same video. My brain definitely fried halfway through, so we're just going to start with the Persona crew in Miraculous first. My brain immediately started buzzing at all the potential Kwamis for each holder and all of the suit designs, but the main conflict I ended up running into was, do I give somebody the Ladybug and the Black Cat? They're the two main, most powerful Miraculouses in the show, but I was trying to think of who I could give that pair to. Violet and Joker just made the most sense, but making Violet Ladybug and Joker Chat Noir just didn't make sense to me. Don't get me wrong, Violet could totally be an amazing Ladybug, but I personally don't think that Joker fits the Black Cat. At least that's just how I feel. During this whole assignment process, I got my roommate, Lee, who was a bit more invested into the Persona franchise, and they were able to give me a second opinion on all of the pairings. How I decided on the final pairings ended up being based off of power, which means what each Kwami represents. I tried to stick to the power that the Kwami would give the wearer, like how Ladybug has her lucky charm and Cat Noir has his cataclysm kind of a thing. With that in mind, this made my decision not to give Joker the Black Cat. So, we're just gonna move on. I actually ended up giving him Nuru, the Moth Miraculous. This decision was hard only because I know that the Phantom Thieves aren't villains, but the more I kept thinking about this pairing, the more it just made sense. Joker's whole gimmick is being able to take on multiple personas at a time. With Nuru's power, he can give people with a strong enough emotion a superpower that will help said person become a superhero in the way that the emotion kind of warps it to be. It's a really awful explanation, but typically, Hawkmoth waits for a super strong anger or sadness to send out an Akuma, thus the Akuma lets the person become super powerful, and Hawkmoth will give them the power to fix that emotion. Doesn't always have to be used for evil. I also really enjoyed the idea of people being scared of the team at first, because they have heard of negative things about the Moth Miraculous, and the fact that the leader has it would just be terrifying, but the public would open up to this idea the more the story progresses. Kind of like the plot of Persona 5 Royals. I just thought that was so cool. I also thought that Joker's shape language translate best onto Hawkmoth. With the vest, the jacket, the gloves, all that. It was just too perfect. Another hang-up I came across, though, was whether to make the mask a tight, face-fitting one or lean into the Persona designs and make it pop up a little bit more. This decision was admittedly a little silly, but one that I thought that I would constantly second-guess for every single design. For Joker, I gave him one that pops up a bit because I had the purple visor that Hawkmoth gets in mind. Like the visor he gets when he talks to his Akumas. And I wanted to keep that same kind of idea. I really struggled to keep the Miraculous' skin-tight outfits in mind, especially since the majority of the Persona characters have a bulky jacket or some loose clothing somewhere. This really made Joker difficult. I love his big jacket, but what I absolutely love more is when he's drawn with just his turtleneck vest thing. So I kept that and turned it into a suit jacket. I gave it long tails to add another moth kind of butterfly motif and tie it back into his Persona jacket with the same kind of jacket tails. I thought that would be cool. I didn't want him to just have no sleeves though, so I gave him a tight undershirt that leads up into his glove. I did keep Hawkmoth's pants and Joker's boots, but other than that, I refused to give him a condom head. No skin tight around the head, I absolutely refuse. Joker deserves his hair. My last little notes is that the actual Miraculous is on his shirt like it is for Hawkmoth, and I gave him that fancy cane. Now, for the name. I decided to try and keep it in Japanese. Making the names French or English doesn't make too much sense, so for Joker, I took the words Joker and Moth and mashed them together to get Joga. I apologize for the pronunciation. I am horribly white, and all of these will be bad. But anyway, here he is. Next up is the very pretty lady, Violet. I was debating doing this in order of how you meet and obtain the characters on your team, but because I was so committed to the pair idea between Violet and Joker, I just had to do her next. As some of you may have guessed, after I gave Joker Nuru, I decided to give Violet Dusu, the Peacock Miraculous. The power didn't make too much sense, but I did fall in love with the idea of Violet knowing what a Miraculous was and having it on her, but deciding not to use it unless it's absolutely necessary. I didn't want to make it damaged like it is in the show, but I thought that keeping it damaged would create a cool tie between the two, because that's just kind of how Violet works in Persona. She shows up when you least expect it, kicks ass, and dips. I think being able to create her own monsters and sending them out to help the Phantom Thieves would be a cool gimmick as well. Like, the crew shows up in a palace. It has some creature running around, bulldozing through every enemy, and they just don't know who it is until she shows up later. Another tie between the show and Violet is how the wearer of the Peacock Miraculous slowly becomes injured because it's damaged. I thought it would be cool for when Sumire lost her memory of who she was, and she thought that she was her sister, Kasumi. This would be cool, like a cool side effect of her using the Miraculous. Maybe we can keep it damaged just because of that. I don't know. I thought it would be cool. But basically, we could assume her memory loss was from the damaged Miraculous, but once the gang repairs it, she remembers who she is. I put way too much thought into who gets each Miraculous, but I absolutely loved every minute of it. Moving on to her design, I knew I wanted to keep her in some sort of like bodysuit inspiration, and her heels and socks, because I thought they just could translate onto the Miraculous design so well. But her jacket and Mayura's long coat kind of threw a wrench in my plans. I quickly became flustered and overwhelmed with what to do. I ended on the idea of making her jacket really slim and similar to Joker's. I just put the coattails in the back, but I think it actually works well for this design because I like the detail of the peacock feathers and how it drapes off her hips. I made a marker where her socks end in her real design, and I wanted that to be the suit color change in this one. I also kept her in heels because Mayura has heels, and so does Violet. It was obviously the only logical decision. I almost gave her gloves, but I ended up going with the thing that just kind of forms into a ring. It ends on the middle finger, so it's not really gloves. I don't know, you see what I'm talking about. I also I did give her fluffy cuffs because of her actual jacket. It flares at the wrists, and I thought that having fluff there instead would look really cool, kind of merge back into that peacock imagery. I did keep her hair in a ponytail, but I made it a mid pony instead of a high one. I threw a feather in her hair as well because I didn't want to give her that feathery thing that covers her eye, because I want Violet to have an actual mask rather than her skin just being blue, and having a feather would block the mask. To tie her design into Joker's a bit more, I gave her the same neckline and placement of her Miraculous, just to further the idea that they're the pair. Yeah, I thought that would be cute. My last note for her design is that I struggled to pick a hair color for her. This was the start of my hair color struggles. I know hair color can either stay the same or get this whole fancy gradient or completely change colors, but nothing just felt right. I ended up keeping her normal hair because I felt that, one, it would make her look more like Violet, and two, I wouldn't be throwing too much blue or random accent color back into the mix. Lastly, we end with a name. Just like Joker again, I took two words and mashed them together. I took the Japanese word for illusion and peacock to get Sujaku. Here is my beautiful peacock, Sujaku. Now, here is where we kind of fall into the order of how we gather people on the team. So kind of out of order though, because I'm doing Skull next, aka Ryuji. I know technically you get Morgana next, but I wanted to jump into Ryuji next. I mainly went for color inspiration for him. I gave him Pollen because of the yellow, but Pollen's power is to form a top-like toy and turn it into like a paralyzing weapon. I liked the idea of giving Ryuji this Miraculous because of his legs. He had an accident while running track, and throughout the story he has complications with his legs, like throughout Persona, and he has problems running and stuff like that. So I thought it would be a cool story point that when he is first learning how to use his power, he accidentally hit himself, and that's why his legs are so damaged. It felt really weird to give Ryuji a tight suit, so I just tried to bulk him out in a similar way that Cat Noir is. I gave him knee pads for the aforementioned bad legs, but big sneakers to give the bigger silhouette around his feet. I tried to give him stripes in the same location of where he has the layered leather patches on his jacket and like under his armpits. I also really like how Chloe has these cute little ribbon things in her Queen Bee design, like in her hair. So I decided to turn that into Skull's scarf. I wanted to give him a belt as well, so I thought of doing something with the top kind of weapon would make like a cool hip accent, so I just kind of wrapped it around his belt, kind of like Ladybug's yo-yo. Another character with a mask where I was torn whether to make it pop up or not. I decided to keep it flat with an extra point down to symbolize the teeth that he has on his mask in Persona. I also tipped his hair in black to add a bit more color to the design, just because I thought there was a little bit too much yellow going on, but I didn't know how to fix that. But I thought it was funny that the Miraculous is actually a hair clip. There is no way Ryuji would wear that as a hair clip in day-to-day life, so I like the idea of wearing him wearing it on a chain somehow, and then throwing it into his hair whenever he needs to transform. Anyway, I decided to name him just by mashing words together again. So here is the final Ryuji. My final Hachisu. Now, as I might have mentioned earlier, next on the list is Morgana. Now you may be curious to see what I do for him. Maybe questions like, what Miraculous did you give him? What are you doing with him because he's a cat? Are you going to do some sort of corruption thing because he was originally a velvet room attendant and then turned into a cat, so there could be a cool symbolism there, Bodhi? That's a really cool idea. You should do it. To answer those questions, no, I did none of those. I actually turned him into a Kwami. This isn't a replacement for Plag, but instead he's his own little guy with his own power. I did keep him a black cat, but thought he could be a black cat for Japan and not for France. You know how they, like in the movies, America has their own set of Kwamis, so I thought it could be something like that. An unlucky symbol still, but with a unique power. I decided on the power of corruption. It sounds very vague, but let me explain. I wanted the idea of the power being similar to mind control. I play with mind control a little bit in Persona 5, so I thought it would be cool to kind of give Mona that power. I decided to make his Miraculous a bandana, so the wearer could either tie it around their neck, wrist, ankle, whatever they want really. I also really like the idea of the weapon being like a persona, like once the person transforms they could summon a persona to do their bidding, but that seems a little bit too far off from Miraculous, so I went with something else. Morgana's weapon could be this like pirate-like sword, so I figured it could be some sort of pirate-ish theme, maybe? I don't know. I would love to do a video designing new Kwamis and powers, but that's definitely not this one. Something with the sword is whoever it touches would fall under the person's spell. Kind of similar to Nuru's, but a lot more physical. It would force the wearer to be on the battlefield. I would love to keep going, but this is such a quick drawing that I'll actually have to call it here. Anyway, here is Mona. Now we are on to Lady An, or Panther. I played with the idea of a few different Miraculouses for her, but I ended up on Roar. I thought that the colors, the animal, and the power just fit the best. The gauntlet felt weird, but everybody has a weird weapon, so it's fine. I like that the episode where Julika was given the Miraculous with the tiger was an episode where she needed to stand up for herself and prove that she just isn't some pushover. That really was the main point pushing me to give her the tiger Miraculous. in the game, On stands up for herself and turns away from Kamoshida. It was this whole deal in the game. I won't keep going for anyone who would like to experience this sequence on their own, but I liked that little personal connection I made between Juleka and On. This is around the point where I decided to keep the colors from the Miraculous suit rather than the Persona suit. I posed her specifically like this as well, not just to show off her ass, but to show off the fact that I put the zipper on the back rather than the front to mimic her Persona suit. I also wanted to show that she had her clip-on tail rather than the belt that Juleka has. I also did keep her boob window just for fun. I thought it would look good. And I accidentally swapped the hands of the gauntlet, but I did keep the different colored hands, so I think that's okay. I also believe this is the only character that I gave a hair gradient to, other than like Joker and Skull with like a slight hair gradient, but I justified this decision because in her all-out attack artwork, like when you do a final blow, it looks like she has some pink streaks in her hair. So I thought it would look cool. Anyway, for her name, since she is from America, I wanted to keep her name in English, so here is Purple Panther. Yusuke is next. This decision was really too easy. It was just handed to me. I mean, come on. His codename is literally just Fox. There's no way I would be able to live with myself if I didn't give him Tricks. To be fair though, I actually did consider the Goat Miraculous because of the power, but I decided on Tricks because Yusuke is way too much of a perfectionist that the goat's power would just kind of be useless. What you have to do with the goat is you're able to draw something and your drawing is able to come to life. Yusuke would not be able to do that. He would be spending too much time on every little detail. So I thought the illusions that he can just whip up whenever, wherever, and have them be of whatever quality that they need to be is just way better. It would make him way more useful on the battlefield rather than just kind of sitting in the corner with a pen, just being like, it's not working, it's not perfect enough. I don't know. I think that would be funny to see, but Tricks is so much better for him. I did want to keep his shoulder pads, but decided just to imply them instead. So I made the black gloves and higher up and in sort of a shape that would symbolize the shoulder pads. I kept the black turtleneck that Rina Rouge has, but decided to give Yusuke a fluffy collar. By fluffy, I mean spiky shape to imply fluffy. Lots of things are implied with him. Whoops. I do like the capri pants that Fox has, so I decided to give him boots around the knees to once again mimic his normal suit. Lastly, I gave him that fluffy tail that he has in his Persona's design rather than a cape or a half kind of skirt thing, like draping off the hips that Alya has. I, again, wanted to copy his suit, so that's how I decided with the fluffy tail. I thought it just would be kind of cool to see. I ended up deciding on the name Inari for him, only because Futaba teases Yusuke throughout the entire time that they know each other and all the time that they're friends, and he calls, Futaba calls him that throughout the entire series. I thought it would be amazing. But it also fits, because it actually means God of Foxes. Anyway, here's my final Inari. Next is Makoto. Yay! That really wasn't obvious enough. Queen is definitely my least favorite out of the crew. Not that she's bad, but because I think everyone else is more interesting and has, like, a more well thought out character. I do like that she has the whole, like, sister thing, and that makes her a little bit more interesting, but definitely I like everybody else a lot more than her. I am also just not a huge fan of her design. The only thing that keeps her interesting and the only compelling thing about her is her motorcycle. Let's be honest here. That the motorcycle makes her hot, and that is it. That is all she's got going on. Anyway, I decided to give her Stomp only because of the colors, really. I thought the Kwamis that, like, out of all of the Kwamis, I thought he would fit her the best, but no one really seemed perfect, so I just ended up going with Stomp. For her suit, I do like the spikes on her normal design. That's about all I like from her normal design, so I put those on her knee pads. I tried to mimic Ivan's suit design, but make it more feminine rather than like bulky and like big. I just tried to slim it down and be more skin tight because she is one of the few characters that does have a skin tight suit already. I moved the little rings on his boots up to her chest because I thought it would make a cool little focal point. My only other note is that I kept her scarf because it is literally the only other thing that I like in her persona design. All I have to say about her is that I mushed the Japanese words for queen and bull together, so here is Buruju. Following my least favorite is my absolute favorite, Futaba, aka Oracle. Oh my gosh, I love her so much. I ended up giving her sass because she is the navigator for the team, so I figured she could use that power just over and over again, constantly bounce back in time and check out all the possibilities and come back and be able to keep the team safe. I did consider tricks for this same reason, but I thought the green of sass would fit her better. And then I also did consider ways because I thought the big shell that he's able to produce would be a good move for her because she does, like, her persona can do something very similar to that and create a big bubble and a buff for everybody on the team. But I don't know, I liked sass so much more, so that's who I ended up going with. I thought the time travel gimmick, being able to map out possibilities, try things, and just, like, kind of be like calculations, but more physical, I just thought that would be so much more cool. I decided to keep the shoulder design things from her persona suit, like the little triangle thingies that she has on her shoulders, but I tried to mimic that frame that she has around her chest. I've sort of traded it for some diamonds just scattered around to also mimic Luca's suit, but I don't know. I feel like I did a really good job with these two. I kept the mask roughly the same from Viperion. I liked the little teeth that it had that point down. I also kept that green symbol that Luca has on his chest, and I just put it on her chest. I also gave her boots and gloves that pop up a little bit on the sides, like they kind of just poke out a bit. I don't know. I like that little detail. I think it makes her silhouette look a little bit more intriguing. I also gave her the like sock-like covers, even though they're not really. I gave her that kind of design on her shoes to give her those green because I love her shoes in Persona. I think they're so cool. I also kept her gloves pretty much the same as her Persona design. I gave her green fingered gloves. I don't have too much else to say about her, which sucks because she's by far the most fun to draw. But yeah. For her name, I just kept it the same, but switched to Japanese. So here is Orukuru. Next up is the little baby girl, the baby girl baby, Haru. I gave her Daisy really only because of the colors. I also thought that the gift power would be pretty cool for her. Like, I can see Haru and Rose being really, really good friends. Their personalities just seem really similar, so that's how I ended up giving her Daisy. It's my same connection with An and Julika. I thought Haru and Rose would be just too perfect. So, I don't know. I thought it'd be cute. I decided to give her pigtails because pig. I thought it would be cute as well, especially with her curly hair, you know, like the little curly cubes of a pig, but then put them in pigtails. Oh my gosh. I'm too proud of my own little design choices. I feel that I did take the most liberties with this suit design. I was so set on giving her this heart shape around her boobs because I wanted to do something like what Noir has, that like puffy shirt under that vest that kind of wraps around her boobs, but I wanted to make it fit the suit a lot better. So I decided to do that heart instead. I thought it would look really cool. I did keep the stripes that Pigella has because I like how it broke up the big amounts of pink. I thought it was like a nice way to transition things. Lastly, I gave her these like 3D spiral things around her arm. I don't know why, but I thought it would be a cool addition. Kind of similar to Futaba, like I thought it would make a cooler silhouette. And then just to make those not look out of place, I added those same kind of designs around her hip just to tie it in better. I'm very, very happy with how she turned out. I think she's so cute. But for her name, I pretty much just picked the same thing that Rose chose. But instead, I went, Rose. Rose is French for pink. Haru is French. Let's just do Rosella instead. So here she is. Next up are my last two designs, and you may be wondering, two? There's only one more character left. There's Akechi. You are correct. Akechi in Persona 5 Royals got some extra content. I'm not 100% sure about everything that was added, but I remember watching my roommates play through and just seeing how freaked out they got, like so excited when they saw Akechi turn into a different persona holder and watch his design change. Because of this, I thought it would be really, really fun to give him two Miraculouses and have him change at some point. I thought it could be a really fun plot point. So starting off, we have this the princely crow, the one that lures you into believing that he's good. Like, he is on your side, he is there to help you guys out. For this, I actually gave him Oriko. I thought the colors and the power would fit best. Since Akechi is the only other persona holder that can summon multiple personas, I thought the ability to choose whatever power he wants is a good fit. Now, the crew doesn't know that initially when he joins the team, so I thought it would be kind of just a little homage, a little forewarning to what's about to come. For his suit, I kept the colors the same as what Mark has, but I tried to take some elements from Crow's suit. So I wanted to make the tailcoat a cape. I attached it to his shoulders to kind of mimic his shoulder pads. I do really like the feather chest pattern that Mark has, but I also really like the golden stripe tassels that Crow has on his princely suit. So I thought making those feathers a bit smaller and more kind of symbolized and more stripey would be a good way to tie that in on the chest. I also gave this is the last character I gave a 3D mask to. I thought it would look the best if it popped up on the sides and came down a bit more than everybody else's, but definitely not as far as normal Crow's mask. That thing is like a foot long off of his nose. Oh my goodness, I am not doing that. I don't know. I just made it come down a little bit farther than normal. I did keep the gloves and the boots from Mark's suit. I like that they added that depth once again. And then I also gave him his A belt that he has in his persona design, assuming that stands for Akechi, but I don't know, I don't want to make assumptions. I also wanted to point out that I gave him this pose because it felt very flamboyant and poised, like how his first Crow suit is supposed to look like. I also gave him a sweeter looking smile, just hinting. Anyway, moving on to the name, I just slapped feather and bird together to get Phasatori, so here is the first Akechi. Last but certainly not least, we have Akechi's second design, in which I actually gave him plague to really emphasize the change that his character goes through. I thought the black and the destruction kind of symbols that you get from plague would be a really, really good fit for how insane and absolutely corrupt he becomes, because you just watch, the shift after what was supposed to be the ending is really powerful and so interesting and such a good character plot to just watch him go insane because he thought that he killed Joker, but he didn't. And then just watch that whole shift and his brain just completely melt. It was really cool. So I thought that I could mimic that with the shift from Oriko to Plague, and that would kind of keep it compelling and similar to the way that I really like. I love the stripes that he has on his sleeves in his second Crow design. I thought that they would make an interesting kind of color change on the suit, so I kept those because I, again, thought they looked really cool. I also thought that Chat Noir's, I keep saying Chat, I keep saying Chat. I'm Cat Noir's belt and tail and shoes. I kept those because they are just way too iconic to change, and I also think that they fit Akechi very well. I don't know, it just looked good. My last note of the suit is that I moved the bell from his neck down onto the belt to kind of allude back to that big A buckle I gave him on the other suit. I also want to comment on the pose of this one. I kept it menacing and mysterious, and I wanted a good chunk of the face covered to kind of hide his insanity, but still show the viewer that it's there. I gave him that smirk to kind of still show people, and his other hand in this claw shape to show off like the sharp nails. Anyway, lastly, here is my most unoriginal name of them all. Here is Necro. Well, that is just about all I have for you guys today. I really hope you enjoyed this concept, at least like the ideas that I had behind each one. Being able to think of how each of the Persona 5 characters would use a Miraculous was a little too much fun. I'm very tickled with myself with this design concept and like just this whole thing. It was so much fun. It's such a good creative exercise. I highly recommend things like this. I love the idea of taking characters and putting them into other universes. If you guys really enjoyed this video, it would mean a lot if you guys could show some of your love by leaving a like, subscribing, or commenting. All are optional, but all are appreciated. My kit missions are also open. Pricing and details are located on my Instagram, so feel free to reach out. Let me know if there's anything you guys would like to see from me in the future, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Have an awesome day. Bye!